inside a pump, and this is the showing that a pressure variation prediction around a moving truck. So this is flow of air through a baffled container. These are been taken from NATE, and just to introduce that of your people who are entering beginners to the CFD, and this is a so my friends, fluid dynamics. Dynamics means kinetics and kinematics. As we understand that one is cause of motion and type of motion. And here the cause of motion connecting that of your causal effect, that is force, and that of your flow field, that is to be predicted. And here we need to take that of help of to store, compute, and process data to simulate the phenomena. And as we understand, it has its own physics, equation, a partial differential equation, and either it may be represented in dimensional form or an undimensional form, but at the end of it, its representation through analytical solution or numerical solution and augment is needed. So what we understand by the solution is dependent variable as a function of independent variable such as temperature, pressure, velocity, as a function of space, time, etc. So which concept drag, heat and mass transfer, etc. So in order to have this, we need to have this analytical, numerical solution and experimental solution. Both all give that the same solution. All should converge to a same. So friends, when we consider, already Professor Vishwas has already told you, this mass conservation, mass when you take a control volume, that it leads to a partial differential equation upon del x per del v upon del y. What I mean to say, these three equations, mass conservation, momentum, and the energy equation, what it is altogether, for a mathematics point of view, it's a partial differential equation. Okay, so in a summary form, this is a equation. We needs its solution that of your velocity field, pressure field, and temperature field, they are to be found out after solving, right? With constant property, this is what is derivable, and with some assumption, that is incompressibility and constant properties. So to a set of equations which can be classified as porous term, whether it's a parabolic, elliptic, or that of a hyperbolic equation. So my point of saying is this: at the end, all these questions, whether it is a momentum, energy, or mass, it is leading to that of a solution of partial differential equation. Okay. What we need to understand here, sometimes we may learn derivation of this type of equation also becomes difficult because its physics is not clearly understood, and even if its simplification, and these assumptions are the sources of errors, and these assumptions, for example, we have taken that of a constant properties. So with constant properties, the equation appears to be, the equations become very cumbersome, sometimes difficult to bring with a particular type of equations. So these type of equations with varying properties, it's very difficult for to. So as a result of us, the polynomial is a nonlinear equation. Already Professor Vishwas has already told some solution methods, and the point of saying is this: is these properties, when becomes variable in character, they lead to nonlinear equations, and these nonlinear equations is unsolvable analytically. We don't have that of a closed form situation. So as we understand the meaning of linear and nonlinear, you know this. So seeing this, nonlinear equations whose solutions are not available in a closed form. So we go for that of your numerical technique. So whenever analytical solution is really not available, we seek that of your experimental solution. But whenever we go for experimental solution, we should have some understanding of the physics prior to experimentation. Otherwise, the experimentation will be very costly, and this will be cost prohibition itself will not allow us to undertake experimentation. And without understanding some physics of it, and if you are doing experimentation, which is a real kind of gives a better feeling about the problem or about the solution, but still it will be very cost prohibitive in character, as a result of which prior to going for experimentation we should have some understanding about its physics. And when analytical solution is not available, there is no choice for us, and we have to undertake the numerical solution. Okay, so what's the numerical solution is all about? Just for understanding, if we do have a domain and that needs to be represented through that of finite points. So we do have any domain, we have infinite number of points, and data of your flow variables. Yes, this is what I was mentioning, that any domain which is can be thought of that of infinite of points are there. It can be represented with a finite number of points, which we either call nodes or cell centers. And our objective of any numerical technique is to determine that of your flow variables, or that is dependent variables, either temperature, velocity, are those pressure, are those points, and that is what is the target. And the equation, whatever it is, either parabolic, hyperbolic or elliptic, whatever it is, but our objective is to find out those flow variables at those points. And this is what we call it, an infinite domain is represented through a finite number of points. This is what, so what I was mentioning, that of here any of the domain, when we are discretizing and we are representing the domain through only finite number of points or nodes, and the target or the issue remains to predict these variables, dependent variables at those nodes. Okay, what sir was mentioning, that collocated grids and the cell centers are those points, those nodes. We need to find out these dependent variables such as temperature, U, velocity and pressure, like that, and depending upon what you are searching for. So this is what we mean to say, what is the target now, that is what is the that is partial mesh time step, means what is delta x, delta y, what should be the time step, and the scheme depending upon that, that becomes the total objective of any numerical scheme, numerical method. And at the end of it, the computational time, it should be as small as possible. With the smallest computational expenditure, we should get that solution. So we should have that of your spatial as well as temporal step sizes, and that should give that of your a numerical scheme, a robust one. Already Professor Bishwas has told some of the thing. So what we used to do, as you understand, we have landed with those conservation equations, which are partial differential equations, and they need to be discretized, and we have seen those equations were flooded with first order or second order partial derivatives, and those partial derivatives, when discretized, either you take Taylor series expansion or the finite volume, this is been expressed in terms of that of your adjacent neighboring nodes. Any node, any node, when we are searching for that of your dependent variables at those nodes, we also consider that of your neighboring nodes and their influences. Their influences are coming in terms of either you take that of a central difference scheme, backward difference scheme, or that of a forward difference scheme, otherwise upward difference scheme, depending upon the type of the scheme, the coefficients will be coming up. So what I meant to say here, just for showing, I have expanded through a Taylor series where we say that when expanded, it's some of the expressions, when we go, we are chopping it, we are dropping them, and that is the source of error. That is what we call it, the discretization error, and that is, this discretization error is finally been accepted in order to simplify this representation of a or first order or second order derivative in its simplified form, in difference form, in order to express any partial derivative, whether it is first order or second order, in its difference form. We are inculcating, we are bringing some of the errors that might be order of that of your delta x or order of delta x square, depending upon whether it is a forward scheme or a backward scheme or a central difference scheme or a upwind scheme. So we are inviting certain amount of error into our calculation. Okay, so this calculation, we say that is a truncation error. When we just go on iteration to iteration, so there is some round of error also, you must be knowing. So as a result of which we are suffering from two types of error in the calculation. That is, one is round of error, another is discretization error, or we call it truncation error. And now the question is how to control this error when it is subjected to iterations. Okay, so that is another objective of your any numerical scheme. In this front, we say that consistency and stability. So consistency, we means to say that when delta x, that is partial size of the mesh, delta t is the time step they approach to be 0, and it becomes extremely small. The finite difference approximation should becomes arbitrarily close to the derivatives. So this is what we call it, that is the consistency of the numerical scheme. Similarly, we say that stability, if the error involved in the numerical computation is not getting amplified, then we say that that is a stable scheme. And convergence, we say that numerical solution is said to be convergent if the numerical solution approaches the exact solution of the problem as time and space state tends to 0. So any scheme therefore is subjected to stability, consistency and convergence. So the total error which we are handling, and they are likely to disturb the stability or the convergence, and therefore we need to analyze, we need to understand that if whether the scheme is stable or whether we are getting that of a convergence or not. So these are the some key words with reference to any numerical scheme. And friends, so these are some of the things what at the end of this, when we represent any partial derivatives in its finite difference form, so at the end of it we are going for a matrix form Ax is equals to B or X is equals to A inverse B, and X stands for your dependent variable of what we are searching for, and when the whose obtainable, I mean we can get those solutions subjected to condition that we are getting inversion of that matrix. And once we are now thinking of is it inverse of a matrix is obtainable, and answer to that, if it is a diagonally dominant matrix, yes, possibly we are more safe zone, in the sense we are going to get a stable solution means we are going to get that inverse of the matrix, which leads to that of your variables, dependent variables can be obtained. So this is what one of the thing you need to check, what this matrix is generated out of this discretization of your partial derivatives, and is it leading to the matrix which having that of a diagonal dominance. And if that is your lucky, otherwise you have to do some combinations. We have to do something so that some a diagonal dominance can be obtained. Okay, so what we mean to say is this: by this, geometry of the region of definition needs to be defined, and proper physical phenomena, fluid properties, boundary conditions, mathematical modeling is made. Subdivision means discretization of a particular domain needs to be made. The role of solver is substituting governing equation by the representation leading to set of algebraic equation. Either that of your FDM or FBM, you can take it forward. That will be helping you to put it in the form of X is equals to B, and we are interested for finding out X, which is obtained as A inverse B. So this is what is the role of solver. Any of the software, they do the job of the solver, and we are getting the, at the end of it, we are getting the flow field, temperature field, like that. Okay, friends. So I will just, whatever the steps we discussed, this geometry, discretization, then your discretization leading to a equation in the setting the equations in the form of X is equals to B, either using finite volume method. Already Professor Vishwas has told finite difference method. Also he has, which happens to be cousin brother of finite volume method. So these things help us to find out that of your dependent variables, and you can use the fluents, ANSYS fluent. People are using different all other solvers, other softwares to find out these dependent variables, and we will just now will discuss at the time of solving what are the ways of establishing a code, what is coming out of your numerical scheme, whether should I believe your numerical code or not, and what are the reasons of believing when you are the point who will be using that of your software. He should be very careful in the sense that the physics of the problem should be known to them. Otherwise, a black box with a wrong input, garbage input, the output will be also garbage. So one should be very careful with handling a software. So therefore, prior to undertaking any problem, its physics also needs to be roughly needs to be understood. Some common sense needs to be used, and some through some of the techniques, such that you should have a little bit understanding of the physics. Only when you are, if you are handling any software, you will be very careful, because so many some solution will be coming, but that solution is acceptable to you or not. How to assess that? In order to assess, you should have some experimental investigation, some of the physics, understanding of the physics of the problem. So in order to do this, I will just take a very simple problem, so to make you clear about how we are really solving a problem, and finally establishing, yes, whatever I've solved is reliable. So I will be just discussing some natural convection and its interaction with that of a radiation in the following slides. So I think this is a very simple, straight cut problem, which we say that one side of this wall is hot, maintained at a higher temperature compared to the other wall. You can think of one side is conveyed to the atmosphere, so the wall is cold or is same temperature of that of your ambience. Other side, if it is heated up, so what happens? Other two horizontal walls, they are insulated. If this is a problem, then we can think of there is a temperature gradient between hot wall and cold wall, which leads to, if it is filled with air, so that air which come across with the hot wall gets lighter, comes up, and when it goes up, it is obstructed by that horizontal insulated wall, and it takes the rightward movement, and when it comes to in contact with the cold wall, it gets cooled and compressed, as a result of which smaller local vacuum is created. So that makes the fluid to move from that of a hot wall side to cold wall side, and this is what we call it, that of a horizontal movement. We say that of a energy corridor, that is movement of hot air from that of a left hand side and coming to that of a cold wall, where it is getting cooled and compressed. As a result of which motion is resulted, and these, if we want to investigate that what happens, it can be thought of as if just like a that is an engine operating between source and sink, and this, when it is operating between source and sink, there is a power being generated. That power is responsible to make the fluid to flow inside this chamber. Okay, so if we are interested for this problem, and this looks like a computational domain, to left hand side, when it's in dimensional, it is in a dimensionless form, it is given as that of your 1 and something temperature at the right, and 2 horizontal walls, they are insulated. So these friends, this particular problem can be represented through same, already we discussed continuity, momentum and energy equation, and then we can, they are all partial differential equations. The question comes, they need to be discretized because it doesn't have that of a closed form solution. So they need to be discretized. At the end of it, a numerical solution needs to be obtained. That is our target. But that numerical solution, whether it is acceptable or not, in the absence of analytical solution, what we need to do, we should have, these are the assumptions. If you think of no slip conditions, fluid is inside is a Newtonian fluid, and with this, if we think of a scaling analysis is normally done, why for, that is to have some introspection about the physics of the problem. And this scaling analysis, as a matter of fact, it is a very beautiful way of understanding the physics of the phenomena with very little intellectual effort. And that's why it is normally done. And I am saying here in this particular energy equation, you might have seen, that is first two terms, when you compare that of your scale analysis, when u and v, when the motion doesn't stand, u and v remains 0. So therefore, delta t upon t time, and which is on the right hand side, del alpha del square t upon del x square is, and del y square, out of which you can say that delta x is comparatively very less than that of your del y, in the sense it is of the order of, delta x is the order of the boundary layer thickness, where y is of the order of height of the enclosure. So delta t boundary layer thickness is much smaller compared to that of a height of the enclosure. So when you just compare these terms, so we do have two terms on the left hand side, one term in the left hand side, right hand side one term. So they need to be balanced. Other terms do need to be just avoided. Okay. Hello. Is there any question?
No, I think no.
Okay. And this, as a matter of fact, helps us to, instead of solving full equation, just having two terms. One is on the left hand side, inertia term on the left hand side, and similarly one diffusion term, that is alpha del square T upon del x square. So giving rise to an idea about that of your boundary layer thickness, thermal boundary layer thickness, which is of the order of alpha T to the power 0.5. So this is a, I mean, order for analysis, scale analysis, which says that this term is quite higher order compared to that of your other one. So these can, for the time being, they can be neglected, and basing on that, we are landing to a situation so that it become very simplified, and the boundary layer thickness immediately can be expression through equation number 5, that is alpha T to the 0.5. So when u and v is equals to 0, when this condition is possible, that is when at the beginning when everything stands still, the fluid has not started moving. So under that condition, your boundary layer thickness, which happens to be depending upon thermal diffusivity and with respect to time, it will be increasing, which is given in the equation number 5. So similarly, if you just try for momentum equation, there are three players: inertia, viscous term, and buoyant force term. And out of which, if you say, if they are been scaled down, and inertia term, if 1 upon Prandtl number in the last row, and that of a viscous term is 1, and buoyant force term is like this. For a higher Prandtl number fluid, the left hand side goes out, and we do have a comparison between the viscous term and the buoyant force term. These two terms, they are two major forces which are really governing the situation, as a consequence of which the fluid really start moving. Buoyant force, obviously you must be understanding, that is the responsible force which is a driving force for the fluid to move, and which is opposed through your viscous force. And these two players will be saying, as a result of which whatever the velocity is resulted, and this is what is given. Okay, so now once the velocity is coming up, the inertia is picking up. Inertia in the beginning, we have neglected that of the middle term of the convection term. Now after a few seconds, so what happens? This convection term is coming up, which was neglected initially in the energy equation. In the energy equation, inertia versus conduction, there was that of your counteraction was taking place. Now convection, because of the velocity that has come up, and this will be also playing a role. This way, I'm just not spending much time on that. So this way we are doing, and at the end of it, the velocity, which is depending on g beta and delta t alpha t upon nu, and similarly the thermal time period to reach that of your that is the period of transience is given by this. As a result, if you just compare this, and we are landing to a term called Raleigh's number, and based of depending on which your Nusselt number comes. So Nusselt number is a significant, is showing some of the indication of heat transfer in the phenomena, that is heat is transferring from hot wall to that of a cold wall, which is represented through Nusselt number, and which indicates that is a function of a Rayleigh number. So this is what why I've said you just for beginners, just to say that if a phenomena is taken under consideration, then what is that of who are the major players are playing or influencing the phenomena? If we see that here it's a natural convection, obviously that of a buoyant force and opposed by your viscous force, they are the major players. And after a few term, then inertia will be coming into picture. So at the end of it, when you club, who are the major terms of the big equations? So we are able to solve, and we are coming to a condition to predict that Nusselt number happens to be the function of Rayleigh's number, and in a very short, with a little effort, we are able to say that Nusselt number is a function of Rayleigh number, but we are not able to say what is equals to. We are saying of the order of. It is a functional relation. We are saying it is Nusselt number is a function of Rayleigh number. So this is the thing. When we say that it is equals to k times Rayleigh to the power this much, that k itself is determination. We need some experimental work to support that what should be the value of k. Otherwise, we have to undertake some of the numerical investigation to find out what should be the value of k to predict Nusselt number in a deterministic form of that is in terms of Rayleigh number. So therefore, we used to conduct also experimental investigation of the natural convection, and these are the setups which is with a Mach-Zehnder interferometer. We do have in IIT Bhubaneswar, we do have also in IIT Kanpur, they do have a Mach-Zehnder interferometer setup, which helps us to find out that of your temperature distribution inside the domain. This is a experimental result when Rayleigh number, as a matter of fact, is of the order of 1414. So which is an indication that convection is very less, and it is more or less conduction domination, as a result of which the isotherms you are seeing, they are more or less vertical and they are parallel to each other. So this particular interferogram is an indication of a conduction phenomena. Okay, so when it is Rayleigh number is of the order of 10 to the 5, you just see that a convection is completely on, and the domain is, this is the convection current, and this crowding of the isotherms near that of your active walls, either hot wall or know the temperature distribution, then only you can solve the momentum equation given through vorticity function in the upper equation, and where the delta theta